So there's more Russell Wilson drama, and it just feels like it keeps getting worse for him. The recent stuff is apparently Russell Wilson was convinced that Pete Carroll and the GM were inhibiting his quest to win additional Super Bowls and individual awards. Sources say he then placed his request to fire the coach and GM in February of 2022 within days of his call. The top team officials met and decided to pursue trading the 9-time Pro Bowler. Now, Russell Wilson has come out with a statement from his PR team saying he would never do such a thing. But when you look back at the timeline of the whole Russell Wilson trade, it seemed like early in the offseason there was no way that Russell Wilson would actually be traded. The Seahawks were sticking with him. Very rarely do you see a quarterback that's been with a team that's already won a Super Bowl. You know, he was with them for like a decade. Very rarely do you see a quarterback like that get traded. Now it's starting to make a little bit more sense if this is really what happened. And it seems like people are really not buying what Russell Wilson is selling. He seems to have more of a different image behind closed doors than in the public light, where he comes off as very professional in public. And, you know, obviously this is just terrible for Russell Wilson. I mean, he wants Pete Carroll fired. Meanwhile, he ends up getting traded. It ends up being, or at least right now, one of the worst trades for the Denver Broncos. He completely regresses. You could argue he was a bottom 5 starting quarterback last year, and Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, of all people, you know, has like a breakout season. So this is just a really bad look for Russell Wilson. And again, I know he came out and said it was false, but I just don't see the need to smear Russell Wilson. I mean, he's already down as it is. The Seahawks look great for trading him. Right now, the public perception is they completely won this trade. And last year, again, it was like we were missing parts to the story behind the breakup between the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, and this might help explain it, to where Wilson had kind of hit a lull in his career in Seattle, wanted a change of scenery or whatever, and said, listen, I'll give you an ultimatum. You either trade me or fire Pete Carroll or something like that, along with the GM. And they said, all right, we'll just trade you. And that's what ended up happening. They trade him for multiple first-round picks, and that's kind of where we are when it comes to that. We've got an update on the Buccaneers likely to start Kyle Trask at quarterback this season. They drafted him in the second round. I forgot that Kyle Trask was drafted in the second round. If you guys don't know, Kyle Trask had a very unique college career. He had a breakout season during the pandemic and then lost all of his players during the bowl game. They were in a New Year's Six game, and they just got crushed by Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, if they actually roll with Kyle Trask, you know, I don't think it's going to work out personally because he's not athletic at all. But who knows? We'll have to see. The Buccaneers could be a team to watch for Caleb Williams. And it also, you have to wonder what the Buccaneers do with Mike Evans, who's not getting any younger, and he's only going to be depreciating in value. I know they just gave Chris Godwin a longer deal, but if you're someone like Derek Carr and you'd, maybe be interested in going to a place like Tampa Bay because they do have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you also have to understand the Buccaneers have one of the worst salary cap situations in the NFL because for the last 4 or 5 years, they haven't been planning for the future because they have Tom Brady and they know he could retire at any moment, and he did retire. And speaking of Tom Brady, there's another update on him. Pro Football Talk is speculating that Tom Brady could ditch retirement for the 49ers if an opportunity arises. So let's just come out and say it and really understand. Tom Brady is one Trey Lance offseason injury away from being the 49ers starting quarterback. I don't think there's any question. I mean, he's done interviews where they're asking him, are you retired for good? And he won't commit to it. It is so obvious. Tom Brady looks at Kyle Shanahan. You look at that offense. You look at what Brock Purdy, the last pick in the NFL as a rookie, was able to do, to where they were on the verge of the Super Bowl, and then Brock Purdy gets injured. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, the Shanahan scheme. I mean, dude, Tom Brady has to be, if there's I'm sure they want to roll with Trey Lance because he's way younger and they have a number 3 overall pick invested into him, and Trey Lance is only losing value every season he doesn't play. So I'm sure Trey Lance is their guy as long as he's healthy. But to me, I mean, a lot of people have been speculating on Tom Brady. It seemed like another half-ass apology or a half-ass retirement. I mean, he goes on the beach and he's like, I'm retiring in a minute video. Like, I don't know. The whole Tom Brady stuff is a charade. It's pretty funny, honestly. I think it'd be awesome to see him come back again just because it would make people mad and go to San Francisco. I'm not even a Tom Brady fan, but it would be funny. And that team is just, I mean, any quarterback could have success on that team. And it's nothing against Brock Purdy, but let's be real, guys. I mean, that is crazy. Let's take a look at these. We've got a quarterback rankings to react to. This is after the 2022 season. Mahomes, Burrow, Trevor Lawrence in front of Josh Allen. What? Justin Herbert at number 5. Aaron Rodgers at number 6 in front of Jalen Hurts. Dak at 8. And then Lamar Jackson and Matt Stafford still somehow inside the top 10. So yeah, I mean, I just showed this because it's clearly a troll list. And people do this all the time at media networks to where they'll put these lists together, post them on Twitter, and try and drum up as much engagement as possible. It's something that Fox does. Like, you'll see Fox Sports release their own version of their top 25 college football polls, and it's just all ridiculous. I mean, they're just trying to get as many replies and quote tweets as possible. So it's funny to see stuff like that. We've got an update here. Due to his injury history and the money he will likely want, there may not be a future for DeAndre Swift with the Lions. Swift is a star caliber back, but hasn't been able to have a complete workload. So my prediction on DeAndre Swift, I think DeAndre Swift is going to be a one-year wonder where everything's going to align one year. He's going to be perfectly healthy for all 17 games. He's going to get like 2,000 all-purpose yards, but he'll never be able to have another season like that again. That's what it just strikes me like. He just always seems to get injured, but I do think he's going to have one crazy year where he might be like a first-team All-Pro. I don't know if it's going to be next year, but he's a beast when he is healthy. And, I mean, I don't know what DeAndre Swift wants in terms of a contract, but it's going to be very hard for him to get legitimate money because he's a running back and because he's so injury-prone. So he's got to be really motivated next year to be healthy. He's, I believe, still on his rookie deal for one more season. And we'll have to see what happens there with Detroit. NFL Insider says Daniel Jones never asked for $45 million. Was a lie leaked by Jones's former agency CAA to make Jones look bad. So yeah, I really don't understand this. I mean, I don't fault Daniel Jones for asking for $45 million. It's a negotiation tactic. Obviously, you're going to overshoot your own value. If Daniel Jones wants $37 million per year, you don't come in asking for $37 million per year. You overshoot it and then try and meet in the middle. So maybe he didn't. I mean, we all know Daniel Jones is not getting $45 million. I believe they're going to franchise tag him, probably draft a young receiver and see how good Daniel Jones can be with some legitimate weapons. I think they will get Saquon re-signed on a 4-year deal. I know there's been speculation that they might franchise tag Saquon. To me, the only way they give Daniel Jones a long-term extension is if there's like a team opt-out after 2 years, or if like none of the money is guaranteed after 2 years. Have you guys seen Dak Prescott's contract? The Cowboys can literally just get out of it after next year because of the guaranteed money. And that leads us to one of the biggest stories so far, Lamar Jackson, who does not have an agent, which I have no clue why. Going into your biggest contract in, one of the biggest contracts ever, how do you not have an agent? So Lamar Jackson is coming in, he's his own agent, and he counter offers the Ravens, and guys, it's so obvious. The Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed contract with the Browns has destroyed the negotiations between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, because Lamar Jackson is looking at Deshaun Watson's deal and saying, listen, he got fully guaranteed. Apparently, if you take a look at what ESPN is saying, according to a source with knowledge of the contract negotiations, all of his counteroffers to the Ravens last year were for fully guaranteed contracts that exceeded that of Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson gets the crazy contract, and now Lamar Jackson wants to top it. This is not a good look for the contract negotiation and for the relationship, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. This is like the first time where I think that Lamar Jackson seriously could get traded for 3 first-round picks. Like, if he really wants more money than Deshaun Watson and fully guaranteed after being injured the past 2 years, I think a team like Baltimore might just say it's not worth it. We got to trade you. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but if you're Baltimore, it's got to be so frustrating to if you're Lamar Jackson, how do you not have an agent? Like, I guess it's player empowerment and stuff like that, but an agent is supposed to help you. And if you don't like your agent, just fire him like Daniel Jones did recently. You know, the agents know certain things, how teams negotiate, stuff like that. It seems like Lamar Jackson just looked at Deshaun Watson's contract and said, I'm better than him, so I should get more. I mean, and is Lamar Jackson really better than Deshaun Watson? You know, I know everyone's down on Deshaun Watson, but he's got one of like the highest QBRs in the history of the league for his career. And he was really rusty last year, but it's kind of interesting. You know, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, that Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs deal just keeps looking better and better and better when it comes to them locking him up as early as possible. That's why I think the Chargers, maybe out of nowhere, are just going to lock Justin Herbert up this offseason. If you're Cincinnati, you should be trying to lock Joe Burrow up, as soon as possible so you can get them before the salary cap keeps going up. But the real question right now within the NFL, is this fully guaranteed contract by Deshaun Watson, is that now the norm? Or is that just the Cleveland Browns going rogue, being desperate for a franchise quarterback, trading 3 first-round picks, and then saying, we'll give you everything? Which one is it? You know, I'm sure the NFL and especially the owners are going to want the Ravens to draw a line in the sand and say, we're not giving you a guaranteed contract, especially, with your injury history. And then what does Lamar Jackson do if they draw a line in the sand and say it's not happening? Does he demand a trade? He's probably not going to accept any type of extension from them if it's not fully guaranteed unless he changes his tune. So that is a very interesting development in the Lamar Jackson Baltimore Ravens contract situation. We'll have to see what happens when it comes to that. And then we do have this. Aaron Rodgers, the darkness retreat. It's officially over. I read something yesterday that the Vegas Raiders are out on Lamar Jackson. Of course, take that with less than a grain of salt because, all of these reports are just so ridiculous. One day the Raiders are out on Aaron Rodgers. The next day they're going to give up 5 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers. One day the Packers hate Aaron Rodgers. They want to start Jordan Love. The next day they would welcome him back. It's all ridiculous. But there you can see Aaron Rodgers' darkness retreat, meditation, bedroom, queen bed, and he was there for 4 days apparently in, I think it was Arizona maybe. I don't know. Either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.